everyone. Welcome to Risk Roundup. Today, healthcare is facing massive complex challenges. While across nations, over the years, there have been many talks and trials to fix the broken healthcare system, to make it more accessible, affordable, and effective. More the decision makers have tried, more it has got messier. However, it seems there is a hope now, and the hope comes from technology. To begin with, technology-driven big data revolution is already underway in healthcare. At the same time, there is also another silent revolution brewing in healthcare industry in the form of artificial intelligence. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The imminent transformation driven by the rise of technology, software, mobility, and artificial intelligence is poised to not only allow the healthcare industry to digitize many of the pen and paper-based operations and processes that currently slow down the service delivery and makes it costly and ineffective, but it also allows people to live longer and better lives. From medicine to healthcare and wellness to lifestyle management, the transformative impact of artificial intelligence alone presents the healthcare ecosystem opportunities across a diverse set of administrative, diagnostic, therapeutic, and clinical healthcare functions to help deliver affordable, accessible, reliable, transparent, and effective medicine and healthcare all across nations. To discuss the broader applications of artificial intelligence for healthcare automation further, I'm delighted to welcome Sean Lane to Risk Roundup. Sean is the CEO of CrossChecks and is based in the United States. Welcome, Sean. We are honored to have you on Risk Roundup.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Wonderful, Sean. So what is the primary aim of artificial intelligence in healthcare? What problems are we trying to solve?
No, it's a good question. I think there's a lot of work being done across the entire spectrum. When you look and think about machine intelligence, there's really a diverse set. So you have kind of on the right end of the spectrum, deep learning, genetic algorithms, very sophisticated, unsupervised learning techniques. On the left end of the spectrum, you have your kind of supervised learning, machine learning, some of the more common and mostly well-known machine learning kind of spaces. Now, there's a lot of different definitions of what artificial intelligence is that exists in the market. Myself, I happen to be what I call a Turing purist, so I believe that artificial intelligence is a technology that is difficult to resemble from a human, and that's kind of what I follow in my design and creation of artificial intelligence products. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have people that are more focused on kind of giving superhuman qualities and doing things that humans can't do or could never do. I think the right answer is probably the marriage of both. So in talking about healthcare and where you see things today, there's a lot of work being done in computer vision. So computer vision, the ability for a machine to read and understand something that it looks at has been around for a long time. I mean, from OCR to recognizing images in closed circuit TV. Those are all using a thing called convolutional neural nets. Convolutional neural nets is how you train these systems, and they have built systems now in healthcare to look at radiology, for example, different imagery, to be able to pick out a particular thing of interest in a person's lungs. They're also looking at brain scans, MRIs, looking for tumors, looking for things that typically maybe a human would miss or not be able to find. But even more so, it just helps the human focus on different things, like developing new concepts, drugs, developing new treatments and therapies, instead of just reading images all day long. That's on one side. Now, the other part of healthcare that's very important is the administrative side. So about 40% of the cost of healthcare is administrative. And there's a lot of people, a lot of humans doing things that they shouldn't, because when healthcare technology was built, it was built in silos. It was built for an intranet, right? So it was built for capability inside one hospital and not beyond, or not even broader than that. So because of that, and the fact that there's no internet for healthcare, there's no sharing of information, there's no one spot to go get all of your medical records. Every time you go to a doctor's office, you have to fill out the same form over and over again. Because of the lack of the internet, there's a lot of people that have sat in to replace what should be done by machines. So right now, it's really the routinizable and really routine things that a human does in a computer system is are things that machines should have done from the beginning. And in that regard, artificial intelligence is kind of getting its job back. It's not taking the job. It's like, hey, really, a machine should be doing some of this more mundane stuff. So there's a real big movement right now in healthcare to level up or scale up people. Don't have people doing things that machines should be doing. Instead, let people focus on those things that are uniquely suited for the complexities of a human brain. So everything from reading charts and diagnosing diseases to helping find your insurance eligibility. Those are all important and all things that are happening right now in healthcare.
That's an excellent overview you gave, Sean, and you are absolutely right that the challenge is where that everything was done in silos, and there was no focus or no thought of having an internet and to have the cumulative collective capability of having a healthcare ecosystem so that we can all do better, in terms of access, in terms of efficiency and affordability. So you're absolutely right that there are complex challenges, and where we are going, what potential and what capability, what promise artificial intelligence gives us is just amazing. And artificial intelligence in healthcare, if we see, it represents a collection of multiple technologies enabling machines to sense, to understand, to visualize, as you were just mentioning, act and learn so that they can perform administrative, diagnostic, therapeutic, and clinical healthcare functions. So what task have you seen artificial intelligence-based application taken over for healthcare so far?
So we focus in our company on, we want to build this internet for healthcare. I mean, we want everything to be connected. And what we have said to ourselves is, instead of creating another piece of software, because that seems to be everyone's approach, give healthcare another piece of software. But I don't think that's the answer. So what we've done is we've built basically robots that are able to log into any piece of software that exists in healthcare. Those robots have a brain, and that brain has an entity graph. So it knows who people are across multiple health systems. It understands that Sean is the same Sean at different hospitals, dentist's office, physician's office, and it can then transmit and collate data together and do things that are very specific to me. So we have armed kind of the healthcare industry with an ability to automate a lot of the functions that humans do today. I'll give you a prime example, insurance eligibility. So when you go into a hospital, you have some kind of insurance, Medicaid, Medicare, a private payer in the United States. It's very, heterogeneous. There's lots of different options for who's going to pay for your health care. And the doctor is responsible, or the caregiver is responsible, to know who to bill. And that's a challenge in itself. There are automated solutions out there, but it all involves a human to some degree. And even the automated solutions require invocation from a human. So what we're doing is saying, hey, the name of our artificial intelligence is Olive. So if you hear me refer to Olive, it's a she. That is our artificial intelligence. So we have Olive look at the schedule of the patients who are scheduled to come in, and ahead of time, before they actually come into the office, go find their insurance information on a portal, online, somewhere, wherever it exists. Take that information, put it back in the electronic medical record system. So when a patient comes in, everything is ready and waiting. And it doesn't require a team, an army of humans doing that task, which should be done by a machine. That's example one. Example two are things like prior authorization. So insurance companies a lot of times require that you get permission before doing a complex procedure. Right now, doctors have to go get that permission. That means they have to wait on the phone, go on hold, send a fax, all of the kind of Stone Age stuff, right? Olive can go get that prior authorization by logging into the system, submitting it, looking up the relevant data, passing that. So it's a really game changer, because you now have somebody who should be spending their time with other humans, being able to do that instead of staring at a machine. Humans spend too much time staring at machines.
That's a very, very good point you made. But see, to have that capability, to have that kind of role that artificial intelligence based application can play, or the internet that you are developing, or the chatbot you are developing could play, it requires that the industry welcomes what is coming their way. Now, even if it can identify whether, with any information is available online for the insurance, so that it's prepared. And to get the approval, there also needs to be capability or correspondence between the insurance companies and the AI application or AI chatbot that is working on it. So are the insurance companies on board for something like this? That because they also will need to create some sort of interface or some sort of capability by which these AI based or the robots can go ahead and get the approvals, and rather than having humans on that. So do you see that being welcomed by the insurance companies and the healthcare industry overall?
So the really great thing about the way we think about AI is that we just want it to act exactly like a human. So the cool thing is that all of these mechanisms of information to pass between insurance companies and hospitals for humans has already been created. So there's a website where the hospital workers log in and they go pull the information from the insurance companies to make sure they have the most up-to-date insurance. There are already human networks, human communication networks. And what we're doing is we're just training our AI to use those currently existing human communication networks to interface. Now, in the future, those will be modified to be suited specifically for AI. But today we're saying let's not ask for, beg for, or try to get any kind of system level access where it's machine to machine. Let's just ride the well-worn path of human communications that already exist. Whether it's making a phone call, sending a fax, or logging into a website, we're just training our machines to do that. And then so they have AI. They might not even know that they're talking to AI. They may not know that that person requesting the information through the typical human channels is actually artificial intelligence. And I think that allows us to create financial benefits for our customers before we have to have the philosophical argument.
So that makes sense. You are trying to use the current existing system without trying to have other partners modify all that. That makes sense. Now, AI in healthcare uses algorithms and software to estimate human cognition in the analysis of complex medical data. Now, in the coming years, as the AI-based systems or applications are fed more data and used more frequently, they will likely become the de facto standard in medicine. I mean, it's too early at this point, but we are going that path. Now, to reach that point, we have to cross many hurdles. To begin with, it has to be accurate. The AI-based analysis or decisions that are being taken, it has to be very accurate. From your assessment, I mean, getting approvals and all that is one thing, but if you want to take a step further, how accurate are the AI-based healthcare applications that you have seen so far, or you are trying to develop?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different ways to look at it, right? You can say how accurate is it compared to a human, and then you could say how accurate is it compared to the latest version, and it's an easy argument when it comes to comparing the accuracy to a human. Unfortunately, humans make lots of mistakes because there's no really standards or some, everybody's different, right? And everybody's decision making and subjectivity is different. A machine can have a global understanding of standards and can act globally, so you know what you get every single time. When you go to one McDonald's, it's like another McDonald's, right? But that's because they worked really hard to try to make it the same. But unfortunately, humans don't typically operate like that. They try to, they have their own personality. So when it comes to comparisons to humans, I think that AI will prove to be much more accurate. That won't last very long as far as satiating what we want, which is perfection. So what we will end up doing is comparing this version of AI to the next version of AI. And that's where the accuracy will come in. But I will say, from what I have seen, specifically in the computer vision world, it's absolutely amazing the level of accuracy they're able to achieve. And it's not just accuracy, because it's a level of comfort that you're getting, that you're not missing something. So it's the false negatives that are really, really, those are painful in healthcare, because if you're missing something, it could be devastating or cause death. So I think it's really important that we have that comfort level, knowing that a machine maybe has your back when you're a physician, is a very comforting thing for them. But yeah, I think accuracy is important, and even more than accuracy of the final judgment or determination that's made. I think it comes into accuracy of the data that you're starting with. We have too many humans ingesting information into systems. They are recording information, they're typing it by hand, and they're making mistakes. Those data are used in determinations. And it's garbage in, garbage out. So I think even the things we do at the front end with AI to cause less mistakes when data is entered, then the outcome will be more accurate AI determinations based on that data.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. That what we feed in the data, in the form of data, that's what is going to be used by analysis, for these AI. And if we don't have the accurate data, then we cannot expect the accuracy in the results that we get from the AI-based system. But so it's a very good point that you made. Now, with immense power to unleash improvements in cost, quality, access, and effectiveness, AI is exploding in popularity and functionality as we see across nations. So many new initiatives, so many new startups. Now, growth in the artificial intelligence health market is expected to reach billions of dollars in the coming years. Now, what areas of healthcare markets do you see exploding here in the United States or even across our geographical boundaries because of advances in AI-based healthcare applications?
So I think it really comes down to there's two approaches really. Let's do research around deep learning and some of the more sophisticated sides of machine intelligence to warrant very interesting clinical results. That's one side of it, but I don't think that's where the explosion happens. I think that let's make an analogy to mainframe computers. So mainframe computers were very powerful, sophisticated pieces of equipment that sat in the enterprise. To do something interesting, you had to program on the mainframe, and people did really interesting technical things. But it wasn't until we really unveiled a less powerful, less sophisticated piece of equipment called the personal computer that changed the world completely. And it was because of access and the democratization of computing, because you went from enterprises having computing power to everyone having computing power. And when everybody has computer power, it changes the world in ways we can't imagine. So I actually think the proliferation of AI may be the most important fundamental thing. Even more than the advances in the science itself is the proliferation of it, the democratization of the capability. So from my perspective, it's whatever goes the fastest into the market is probably going to have the biggest impact. And what I think, and I'm a little biased here because a lot of what we're doing, it's going to be the administrative task. It's going to be the immediate ROI, the low complexity task that AI is going to do at scale that's going to change the industry and the science forever.
Yes, you made a really excellent point there. It's all about the democratization of AI. Now everyone, each and every individual across nations, whoever has a desire, they can learn that and they can, develop systems. They can, make a difference wherever they want to make a difference across industries. So that's an excellent point. Now, what you said about the administrative task, that is also very important because healthcare today is facing tremendous fragmentation. Anybody in United States, if you see, who has visited emergency room or who had been hospitalized, knows they don't receive just one bill for the services that were given to them. They receive bills from physician providers to the hospitals to many other service providers. So it creates a lot of complexities, and there is so much. If you look at other aspects, there is a massive problem of too much unnecessary care. Yeah. There is overuse and unnecessary tests that cost the healthcare system billions of dollars invest. You go to one specialist, they will do all the tests. You go to another specialist because they ask you to go to, but they don't transfer all the results. So now again, they do all the tests. There is so much wastage. So how do we make healthcare system effective? And how do we overcome these problems using AI? Because there is so much fragmentation. There is so much duplication. There are many, many complex challenges we are facing.
Yeah. Well, so I think this is the incredible impact AI can have. I mean, a lot of the healthcare systems in the United States are struggling financially to even stay alive. So a lot of them are break even. There are the big institutions that everyone knows about, the more academic institutions, but that's a very small piece of the entire picture of healthcare in the United States. So what really impacts them is the ability to do more with less. And I think, having a AI capability that reduces the amount of money you have to spend on the clerical, programmatic stuff and focus it on care, that's important. I think that you could shift $1 trillion for where it's focused today in the administrative, clerical, fragmented world of healthcare to delivering better care, better science, better therapies, better clinical judgment. If we could shift $1 trillion, imagine what we could do. And I think AI has the power to do that. Now, the other thing that's super interesting is access to data, right? So if you think about Google has access to the world's websites. And with that powerful access, they've been able to bring all that data together, organize it in a way that we can digest and present it back to us. That's an incredible capability, and obviously they've built an amazing company as a result of that capability. But all the data that sits in the enterprise in healthcare is locked away. Google doesn't have access to that. You can't query this data. You can't query the data in the enterprise. It's immune to Google, right? So we haven't experienced that lovely thing that we experienced with Google in any of the enterprise systems. But if AI were logged in to every enterprise application across healthcare, you could effectively query anything. You could ask the AI to bring all the information that they see on Sean Lane across the entire industry from each separate database. That's a new search engine. That's a new internet. That's a new capability that we don't have today. And AI, because of the access that it will have, because there will be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of AI workers that will be working in healthcare in the next, I would say, 2 years. And if that happens, they now have access to systems, and they could be asked programmatically and systematically to bring information together. So it's going to create that modern experience that we've all wanted and tried to expect out of healthcare, and it's going to eliminate the silos and fragmentation. That will allow us to reshift that $1 trillion to focus on other things that are more important.
That would be so amazing. I hope that we are able to do that. But now there are two aspects to these AI-based solutions. One is by which, the hospitals or doctors, physicians' offices, clinics, or, other healthcare organizations can use. Those are one solutions, and one are which the consumers that can use that directly, because pace of innovation in healthcare is rising rapidly, and we see so many great examples of AI solutions with potential applications and possible future uses that are so optimistic. However, these solutions will only revolutionize healthcare the way we would want it to be if they are available to the common man, individuals, and consumers directly without barriers to their access or third party controlling its access. So what potential AI applications exist that everyone can use today, and what are the solutions that are being in the process of being developed that would help the common man make their life much better, much more effective because of that solutions that exist?
Yeah, that's a good question. There are a couple mobile applications. Well, there's several mobile applications that you can download as a consumer. Some are basically suggesting maybe the diagnosis of what you may have if you give it your symptoms. That's kind of the most common thread around AI and health related industry and healthcare in general. There's also really interesting things that may recommend restaurants based on a certain diet, or that recommends a exercise regimen or physical therapy based on you as a person and learning and what works. So there's a lot of really interesting consumer level applications that exist. I think they are good now, but I think in a couple of years they're going to be great. And I think they're going to be great because they're going to get data access. Right now, that's the unfortunate thing is, are these consumer applications still don't have the access to the data. So as great as they may be designed and the great scientists behind them, until we really open the floodgates of data in healthcare, which I think AI will make happen, and you'll have an AI system communicating with another AI system about data, passing it back and forth. I mean, imagine, it's like Siri talking to Alexa, right? I mean, they can pass their information back and forth to each other. Imagine, all of our AI talking to, Amelia, another AI. Like, I think that will really unlock the data. And once the data gets unlocked, those mobile applications will become something you can't live without.
Yes, very true. Now, there are already a lot of applications across nations that are trying to give that customer experience what they're looking for, and in the form of cognitive health assistants or virtual, assistants. And these digital health companies, they're trying to change that patient-doctor interaction by creating these AI doctors. Now, it seems that there is an ambitious long-term projects to build these next generation cognitive assistants with analytical reasoning capabilities and a very broad, wide range of clinical knowledge. It seems that in UK, there is this application called Babylon AI chatbot, which they are in the process of creating. It's getting a huge response, and the huge investments are in that, and they are creating a sort of like what we have 911 number here in the United States. They will have a non-emergency 111 number. They are I'm not sure if that's already in place, but there were discussions about having that sort of capability. So anyone who has some sort of question, they're having fever or some small minor headache or things like that, they don't have to call doctor's office. They can call this number and they can get all the answers or help that they need. So it would create a lot of room for that the doctors and medical hospitals and doctors' offices, they are so overwhelmed with so much is happening. So they would get a relief because this non-emergency care would you be diverted to these AI doctors. So that itself is such an amazing, achievement of AI at this point. And if we have something like this that is across nations globally, then we can sort of provide free basic healthcare to everyone. Because these lot of doctors' visits, or hospital emergency visits, a lot of them are for small minor problems that these kind of AI doctors can solve. So basic healthcare could be provided free all across nations by these kind of developments.
No, Babylon is fantastic, and the founder has a very clear vision of where he wants to take the company. It's an amazing product because it's very early and it's pioneering, right? So they're putting AI into the hands of actual people in a way that democratizes it, like we talked about earlier. So I really think it's the combination of the enterprise adopting AI and the consumer, and it's the confluence of those two things that changes everything. But you make an important point, and that point is things like Babylon will save billions of dollars. Billions of dollars. It'll just rip it right out of the cost, right out of the system. And if that happens, that means we can effectively give healthcare to some degree to every single person who has access to any kind of technology. That's tremendous. Like, we're about to see a wave because of AI. Like, I think of humans are interesting, right? Because we scale based on tools. When we first got the wheel, we changed a lot and we created these networks and infrastructures based on the wheel. When we got fire, we changed everything. When we invented the printing press, it changed information. When we developed the internet, it changed information and technology in a way that scaled us as humans, and we achieved much greater things every time this was done. AI will be the thing that scales us to the next level as a human race. We will, all the moonshot stuff that people talk about, like occupying Mars, or building a sustainable renewable energy source, or providing healthcare to everyone, or ending cancer, eradicating that, self-driving vehicle, all these things that we talk about moonshot-wise, those will be achievable. Increasing life expectancy will all be achievable because of the next tool that we're developing, and that tool is AI. So I'm super pumped about everything that's happening in the space, and Babylon's a great example.
Yes, it is, and definitely there are a lot of other advances happening in other countries. For example, in China, there is a company, I think iCarbonX. It has got huge funding, millions and millions. I think 600 or 700 million in funding that they've already got. And what they are trying to do is digitize everyone's health information. So they are trying to develop algorithms to analyze the digital data of each and every human being. Their focus is right now China, with the intention of recommending tailored wellness programs, food choices, and prescription medicines. So they're not just stopping at answering why you may be having headache, or are you taking your pills, but they're also going towards wellness. They're telling their they're trying to create a digital use, sort of like
Right.
contain samples, like they're taking saliva, protein samples, DNA analysis. So I mean, these kind of developments are happening all across nations. We also have companies here who are trying to go towards that. In Silo, for example, they're trying to do the DNA analysis of individuals and then tell them what kind of nutritional program they should be on, what kind of vitamins they need to take if they're not getting their enough from their food, and how they can keep themselves healthy. Because if you look at it, today's healthcare is more like disease care. There is not much focus on health. So
Right.
we have to go back and actually do what it is required to make it a healthcare. So all these different variables, all these different aspects are necessary. That how should we live every day, what food to eat, what not to eat, because there is so much toxins in our air, water, and food, and then how we prevent that from entering our system, or how we can get rid of those toxins from our system. There are a lot of different variables. So this organization, what it's doing, it's really amazing. And if these kind of initiatives go global, then we are going to be able to prevent a lot of diseases from actually happening. That would itself be transformation, because if we don't have the onset of disease, if we don't allow those genes that could express, because if we keep the body healthy, and if the body is healthy, then the infections also would not happen that much. So we will be able to prevent not only chronic non-communicable diseases, but also communicable diseases, because we won't allow the body is healthy, a lot of things would not happen. So these kind of initiatives are really very welcoming, and they could fundamentally transform the way we do healthcare today.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I think it's interesting too, if you look at the countries that are making a lot of advances, and the regulatory environment in those countries, and the risk profile of those countries compared to the United States. And I wonder, it's interesting when you look at where innovation will occur the most in these spaces. And I see things like what's happening in China, like you've described, and I see an appetite for risk management more. I mean, I'll play into the what you focus on, and I think it's huge, because they're now achieving things, and we'll have the capability to achieve things that we may not be ready for in the United States from a risk perspective and from an industry regulation perspective. So I think that we have a lot to learn on that side, and we will have the benefit of learning from a lot of the projects around the world. Obviously, this is a global effort and a global problem, and I think it's being solved with global solutions. And as the United States looks at it, and as other countries look at it, really need to take a good look at what these countries are doing that have decided to kind of make advances that we may be uncomfortable with here. And we'll see that will be the new standard. So I think it's really interesting to look in the other countries and see what they're doing, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because see, the brain power is not just here in the United States or in Europe or some countries, because it is everywhere. There are smart, intelligent people everywhere who are determined to make their nation better, to make their citizens' life better. So we all have to look at advances happening all across nation, because like you said, this is not a local problem. This is a global problem, and we want to make sure that everyone across nations, the humanity, every human being gets the best possible treatment, best possible way of living. But to achieve all that, I mean, advances are happening, technology developments are happening. There are a lot of startups, a lot of initiatives. Everyone is trying to do what is good for their nation, or what is good for the people, in that nation. But to be able to achieve all that, there are a lot of silos that needs to be broken. There are a lot of challenges that needs to be overcome. And first and foremost is that the healthcare organizations needs to be ready for these AI-based advances. And then they need to make sure that their governance, operating models, and everything is ready, that they have a AI smart ready workforce, that the organizational changes are happening the way it should be happening, and that the regulators are not trying to be a barrier to these advances, and then they are actually making the path for these AI based system more effective. So it doesn't matter, where the application has developed or who created a solution across nation, but that we welcome those solutions so that we can create what is necessary to overcome these huge, humongous problems that we face in healthcare. But that is going to take so much effort, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to overcome those kind of challenges at this point.
Yeah, I think it's promising. I think one of my favorite quotes is from Bill Gates, and he said, "We will probably overestimate what we'll do in 2 years, but we'll certainly underestimate what we can do in 10." So I think that it's probably true in this case too. We have to push forward, and we have to be not satisfied with what we can accomplish in 2. But I think that we, as a global force, are really have the appetite to do something big with AI to affect healthcare. I think we know we have to. There's no other way. The costs are too high. There's no other way to democratize, to truly give healthcare to every human being. There's no way to do it unless we come up with these tidal shifts. And I think these shifts, like AI, will allow that to happen.
Yes, no, absolutely. And as we have been talking, that not all these applications of medical AI will be for the doctors or the hospitals or the insurance companies. A lot of the growth will be helping people manage their own health, as we just talked about it. But the challenge is that will AI be able to achieve that effectively, and what will be the nature of partnerships, consumer focused partnerships that would be necessary? Because even if we develop application that we can directly commercialize or promote to the consumers, directly individuals, common man, that who is going to be able to do that? Are insurance company going to do that? Because if it's then only their providers and their pool of people who are insured will be able to get that access, or the governments will be able to do that. Because if it's governments then and they provide it free, then everyone will be able to get that benefit and access. Or is there going to be some sort of global organization that we need to create so that every nation, every human being across nations can get that free access, free basic healthcare? So there are a lot of complex challenges that we will have to overcome, and we'll have to come up with answers. But the rapid commercialization of machine learning and big data, no doubt, has that it is helping bring AI to the forefront of healthcare and the life sciences, and is set to change how the industry diagnoses and treats diseases. And what do you see the market impact will be? Who will be the winners and losers if we are not able to come together to solve this global problem? Because the competition is always going to be there, whether we like it or not. And there are some, this is not as simple as saying that let's give this, free benefit free to everyone across nations. There are going to be a lot of holders, because there is so much at stake. There is so much money that's involved, here, the current system. There are so many beneficiaries to that, and they are not going to let it go that easily to just, let the technology take over and they be the losers. So who will be the winners and losers, and how will we be able to manage those complex challenges?
So I think with healthcare, like most innovations and changes in the world, the number one communication tool wasn't built by the phone company, right, that exists today. Facebook may be that, or Gmail or something like that, but it's definitely not AT&T. I mean, the thing is, as you look at who's going to be the winners and losers, I think the winners are probably going to be companies that you probably wouldn't even think about. And I think companies are going to end up creating a marketplace around healthy people. And what I mean by that is I think people are going to have access to these AI-powered tools similar to that of a Babylon. I think everybody's going to have access. I think it's going to be free. And I think it's going to be paid for by wellness, and I think it's going to be paid for by those people who are interested in wellness. Companies that want to have healthy employees, companies that want to sell things to people to make running shoes or some kind of whatever it is. I think those private companies will end up paying for this because they're part of a person's life now, and they need the attention of that person. If they have the attention of that person, they're going to pay a lot of money for it. So I think it'll actually be subsidized that way. I don't see the traditional model of people paying doctors or insurance companies paying doctors, government paying insurance companies. I don't think that's scalable. I think that we've already hit our ceiling on it, and realizing that this is not working. So I think that AI gives us an opportunity to really bring in other players. I think that the private market has to succeed in order for innovation to really occur, but that doesn't mean that people won't get it for free. They'll probably pay for it as much as they pay for Facebook, which is nothing. And I think they'll have that capability, and I think that people will get healthier. As a result, the traditional healthcare systems will, well, I'd say the volume will go down. The volume will go down tremendously in traditional healthcare systems, but it'll cost less as a result. So, like I said, I think there's $1 trillion that can be shaved out of the United States healthcare system alone. I believe that globally, it's many trillions of dollars that can be shaved out of healthcare with AI. And I think the people who are going to lose are the people who profit off of the fragmentation that occurs today. And I think the people who are going to succeed are those who are making people healthier and have better and really think about wellness.
Yes, yes, of course. Now let's talk about your organization, CrossChecks. What role CrossChecks plays in this huge healthcare automation ecosystem that is developing?
Well, thanks for. I mean, it's really the internet that we think about. You know, when I first 5 years ago, I started this company, and it was because I was looking. So I'm an intelligence officer by training. I worked at NSA for a long time. I've been mostly focused in security and technology. But when I looked at healthcare, my hometown, which is a small rural town in Ohio, asked me to help them out with the prescription drug abuse problem. So I wanted to look at their technology and data specifically, and I just saw this huge fragmentation in healthcare. There wasn't an internet. There were intranets. There were, enterprise systems that don't talk to each other, hospital systems that don't talk to each other, doctors that don't talk to each other. It's a really big problem. And I think the internet has proven to be a force for innovation, a force for changing everything. So if we could apply the internet to healthcare, then we could imagine there would be crazy, amazing changes that would occur. So I thought, hey, if I can bring the internet to healthcare, then it would be a great way to have changes. The first thing we did as a company is the first 5 years was we created a graph database of individuals so that they could all have one unique ID. This is kind of like a master routing table. And the routing table is like who a person is and where they've gone to the doctor and where they have records. Where do those records exist? So we built this routing table, and then the next step was to build something that uses that routing table. That's when we really got into AI. We created Olive as an employee that would work in any health system across the country. Olive logs into all the systems like a human would, but she completes a lot of those tasks that today humans do, like insurance eligibility, prior authorization, scheduling, patient engagement, things that are very people intensive. So Olive logs in and does this, but she's backed with the brain of that graph, that routing table. So she knows where people have gone. She knows where they are. She knows where the data is, and she can go get it. So really, we're just putting nodes on the network at this point. If Olive starts working at a hospital, she might get access to 3 pieces of software. We now have global access and artificial intelligence to this data. This is huge. So the internet's really coming together. Right now we're in the building routers. We built the routing table for 4 years. Now we're building routers in the form of AI. But what will happen is a modern experience. So what we want to end up with is a patient, maybe even part of an interaction with an AI bot. Let's say Olive. Let's say a patient texts Olive and says, "Hey, I chipped my tooth. I'm in Wisconsin, and what can I do?" And Olive would be able to say, "Well, here are the three dentists in your area that are covered by your insurance." In fact, because she's logged into their systems, so she says, "Here's the open times: 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Which one would you like?" Person says, "I'll take 10 o'clock." She's like, "Great! I scheduled the appointment with you at this dentist." And they now have your insurance information, all of your dental health history, and every other relevant medical history. So now you just walk in and you take the appointment. It's a modern experience that we expect, but it's really been a lot of work to build to that. So, and it's really a combination of building a network, and then putting AI on top of that network. So that's what we do. We're trying to build the internet. Olive is currently employed at a lot of different health systems across the country and growing rapidly. So the more time she gets employed, the more nodes we have on the network, and the bigger that internet grows.
That is so amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So, how do you plan to have each and every doctor or doctor's office or insurance company or everyone to be on that
On,
audit, right?
yeah,
Yes. How
all of
do
it.
you plan to get that?
So today we do, kind of outbound sales. So we contact the hospitals and sell them our product. But tomorrow there's a couple of things. One is it doesn't necessarily have to always be Olive. Like I expect there will be 400 or 500 more, as long as we know that that these AI implementations need to interface with each other. And I don't mean APIs. I don't even want to do APIs. I just mean they need to be able to talk to each other, just like humans do, just maybe faster. So think about it like that example I gave you with the 3 dentist office in Wisconsin. Olive is not going to store all the data for all the dentist office. She's just going to ask Alexa, what are the top 3 dentist office in this area? So that's a kind of a simplifying that, but the reality is the AI needs to know how to talk to each other, and it doesn't have to be an API. It can be just talking to each other. Using computer vision most likely is how that'll happen. So anyway, my point is there's going to be more than just Olive, but the other side is I think that we want to get to a place where people can pretty much download and install AI on their own off straight from the internet. So we want to get to a place where you could literally install Olive as a worker, as an employee in your company without having a CrossChecks salesperson there, without having a CrossChecks engineer be involved. We're very close to that point. We have a platform that we've built called Mimic. Mimic allows you to essentially create a robot. So you could create it. You could be in a hospital in Bangladesh, and you could create a robot, and then that data, the exhaust from what that robot does, joins a global brain, and we apply machine learning and neural nets on top of it. So it's a really cool way to get started with AI very easily and very quickly. And I think once we really go with that from a marketing perspective, the numbers will start adding up very quickly. So that's kind of the plan. And everything is a big number, right? But we call our AI Olive because we know we need all of the access in order for it to work the way we want it to.
That makes sense. No, but you're right about that. But at some point, there will be a need for consolidation and standardization. I mean, as you see, there are like hundreds and thousands of applications that are being developed, and so many would be giving results, the similar results or some similar features, similar functionalities. So we will have to address at some point standardization and consolidation, and at also some point we'll have to talk about security. While we won't have enough time today in this session to talk about the security of these different applications, but there will be a need to ensure that all these applications are secure, because there is so much health records, so much health data that is at risk, and there are hackers who are making a living out of hacking all this healthcare data, and we'll have to make sure that they are all secure. But there's another when you were talking about your CrossChecks journey, you mentioned an important point about the prescription overuse. So do you see a possibility that using AI, you will be able to, or organizations like yours, will be able to come to some sort of solution by which we'll be able to prevent this kind of abuse and use? Because I read somewhere that in Europe, because all this data is getting digital, that they have developed some AI application which is able to identify the gaps and problems by which there are some errors made, or by which there is a more of hospitalization happening, or overstay happening. A lot of different challenges these AI application is able to identify, because all that data is now digitized, and the AI application is able to access that. So do you see that we can create some sort of AI solution by which we can prevent this prescription abuse or overuse?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the biggest challenges is the lack of the internet, right? So like if you're a doc, you may not know that the patient that you're prescribing an opioid to right now tried to get opioids 30 minutes ago at a different emergency room. Like, you may never know that. And in fact, today you don't, because there's nothing that collects that. There's only things that collect what has been prescribed, but it's even days later. So it is, in that case, it's still not good enough. So to know that, hey, this patient was just in an emergency room down the street 30 minutes ago trying to get opioids, having that knowledge is important. But yeah, I think that AI is going to play a large role because AI will have global awareness. Global awareness is a concept of, I know who a person, place, and thing is across all systems, individually, not like a concept of the person, like literally who that person is. So they'll know this is the doc, this is a person, this is a drug. And they'll know that in all contexts across all systems, which gives them the ability to know this person was seeking this drug from this doctor across in this system, in this system, in this system. So with that knowledge and just imparting that knowledge at the right time could be enough. It could be enough for a doctor to say, whoa, 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 I'm going to make a different decision. But even more so than that, I think AI will be able to look at what is working and what is not and be able to understand, okay, these drugs were prescribed to these people for these cases. These people in these cases are now taking, methadone or some kind of clinical assisted treatment, medication assisted treatment for drug addiction, and see the kind of the long cycle of a person's life, in a pattern of how that happened, and then start to see where the anomalies were. Where did the pattern differ with a better outcome? And once it starts to detect that, it can start to weave that back into the workflow. So we may not even know the right pattern or life cycle for a person who was effectively given opioids, who got off of them and lived a normal life. But the AI will, because it'll have this concept of global awareness. It'll know exactly the patterns that we should be tracking towards and exactly the ones we shouldn't. It just will take some time to train the system and allow the system, enough kind of horizontal and vertical data, right? Horizontal in time and vertical in depth. And that'll allow our AI to make changes to workflow and implementation and treatments that we probably can't predict right now.
Very true. Very, very true. Now, what would you like to tell our global viewers and listeners about the coming tomorrow of the AI-driven healthcare transformation, and to all those innovators across nations who are just trying to get into this sector to make a difference, to do something for the humanity? Because they have so many ideas, there are so many young people out there who are really determined and driven to make a difference, because they are not driven by money. Lot of young people are not driven by money. They are driven by solving the problems,
Sure.
to make this human species, or humans live a better life, to have a world which is, safe and secure and sustainable. So what would you like to tell them? How should they move forward if they want to make a difference in this healthcare ecosystem that is having so many complex challenges, and where should they put more efforts?
Well, if this farm boy from Ohio can, be selling artificial intelligence, probably the largest, artificial intelligence presence in healthcare, than anybody can. And the thing is, like, the tools that exist today are incredible. If you're a developer, you're an engineer, TensorFlow, TaskRack, Google AI, Spark MLlib, all of these things are amazing. And like, there's so much capability in natural language processing, computer vision. You could stand up a neural net tomorrow very easily if you'd like. So these things are, the access is there, the data, the tools are there. Now, here's the thing: it's really tough to sell into the healthcare market. So, what I would say is kind of find a partner. And I think here's the key. The key is the future is changing fast in healthcare. Very soon, there will be platforms on which to develop. Those platforms will, just like the iPhone is a platform, there will be the same level of access into healthcare for innovative change. So even though it may seem stodgy today and it may seem bureaucratic and hard to get into, that is changing. It will change. There will be a platform for people to disrupt. I want the developer in their basement, in their dorm room, in their garage, to develop something for healthcare in AI that changes the world, that changes all of healthcare. And I think that's going to be possible because the infrastructure is being built right now. So we're excited about that infrastructure. Now, here's where you can really make a difference. You talked about standards, Jayshee, and you talked about the things that need to be developed. In your typical software building a software application, if it's web-based, you probably are familiar with jQuery. jQuery is like a basic, common library of function or of different designs and buttons and different elements that you can put into your software. There needs to be a jQuery for AI. Like there needs to be these libraries. There needs to be tool sets for developers. So it's another interesting place to go. Somebody's going to create the standards for communication from AI to AI. It's not going to be like anything we've ever seen. It may be vision based. It may be interesting. Someone's going to figure these things out. Might as well be you. Think about the future, how these particular AI implementations are going to communicate with each other and build the standard. We need people who are going to innovate on this. So it's a great place to make a huge impact because, this is affecting people's lives. This is giving somebody 3 more weeks so they can see their kid graduate or see their, daughter get married. This is real stuff. And if you can nerd out on AI and make an impact like that, then why would you want to do anything different, right? So that's what I love about it. So I encourage anyone who wants to make an impact to get involved now. And everybody is seeking out people with passion and enthusiasm. So you'll be a hot asset if you can actually find your way to make an impact.
Absolutely, absolutely, Sean. And this is no longer a world where we can live in silos. This is a collective effort. We need collective intelligence from all across nations to solve big problems like healthcare. And you're absolutely right that, if you can do it, I can do it, anyone can do it. This is, not about where you study or where you go to college or where you live or, what part of the world, what kind of support system you have. If you have ideas, if you know how to solve a problem, then, this is the right time for you. So thank you so much, Sean, for participating in Risk Roundup today. And we appreciate your thoughtful insight on artificial intelligence for healthcare. And our global viewers and listeners would benefit tremendously from the information you provided on the emerging applications of AI, what CrossChecks is trying to do, and what role it would likely play in the coming years. So even if a single individual or entity across nations can come up with an idea to innovate and develop any AI solution to advance the healthcare based on the understanding they receive from this discussion we had today, this Risk Roundup dialogue has been of service, and we thank you for that.
Thank you, Dishi.
Wonderful. So while the artificial intelligence technology advances could make healthcare more affordable, accessible, and effective as we know it, it will also likely bring complex security challenges, industry acceptance challenges, other conflicts, and other complex challenges. Risk groups, cybersecurity, geosecurity, and space security risk research centers are created for these very reasons to identify, evaluate, and manage the risk facing NGIOA and CGS that nations, its government, industries, organizations, and academia in cyberspace, geospace, and space. We at Risk Group believe that risk management, security, and peace, they walk together hand in hand. Though security is related to management of threats and peace to the management of conflict, risk management is related to management of security vulnerabilities as well as management of conflict. It is not possible to conceive any one of the three without the existence of the other two. All three concepts fit into each other. We believe that the security we build for ourselves is precarious and uncertain until it is secure for everyone across nations. Tradition becomes our security, so if we build a culture of managing risk effectively, it will lead us to security, and security will lead us to peace. Let's manage the existing and emerging risks together. For more information on the Risk Roundups, to watch the Risk Roundup videos or hear the Risk Roundup podcast, please go to riskgroupllc.com and do not forget to subscribe and share. Until next time, I'm Jayashree Pandya, host of Risk Roundup, signing off. See you next time. Thank you.